Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Talking Indies in My Undies. My name is Jacob and I'll be your host. So in just the past couple of weeks, the FilmFest Knox elevator pitch has opened up signups for this year's competition. For those who don't know what the elevator pitch is, what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to read a little bit off of their website in their own words. Produce and submit a standalone short film accompanied by a 1-minute recorded pitch for the chance to pitch your feature film idea live before a jury of industry professionals. Cash prizes will be awarded for first, second, and third place. The top 3 winners will also receive mentorship from industry professionals to develop their project to be pitch ready for production companies. By purchasing an elevator pitch pass, you will assemble a team and produce an original short film no longer than 8 minutes. This standalone short film serves as a proof of concept for your feature film. You will also record a 1-minute elevator pitch to be viewed by the screening committee prior to watching your film. If chosen as a finalist, your team will screen your short film and then deliver the 1-minute pitch immediately following a Q&A with judges on Thursday, November 14th. This film competition is a little bit different than the film competitions that we've had in the past. The whole idea here is this short film that you create is really meant to be a proof of concept for a feature-length film. So it makes you think about the short film a little bit differently than you would traditionally, where it's a standalone piece. Now, it obviously is still a standalone piece, but it has that extra layer of being a proof of concept for a much longer, larger story. Really cool. Also, in addition to that short film that you make, you also have to do a 1-minute long pitch video. And I think that what most people did is they just set up one camera on themselves and you make a 1-minute long video where you talk about why this film project is an important one, or one that could be conceivably made into a feature-length film, and what you're passionate about when it comes to this idea. And if you are one of the top 8 films, and what happens then is that you actually give your pitch live in a theater filled with people in front of judges. So it's a different thing, but it's very, very cool. Last year was the first year of this. I participated. I was not one of the finalists, but I participated, had a great time. But lucky for you, I know someone who was one of the finalists. I know the person who actually won 3rd place, and we get to talk with him today. His name is Kelly Burke. I think a lot of you know Kelly Burke. He's been around the film community for a number of years, 10, 15 years, something like that. Love Kelly. He's a great friend of mine, and I love talking to him. He is so much fun. Another aspect of this that no one has really talked about publicly yet is the mentorship aspect of it. As I mentioned before, the top 3 winners will also receive mentorship from industry professionals to develop their projects to be pitch ready for production companies. So what does that entail? What does that mean? Kelly Burke actually went through this process, and he's going to describe some of that to us today. So this is a fun one. If you want to check out more information about the elevator pitch, just go to filmfestknox.com. That's where you can sign up. Signups are $75. It comes with a free t-shirt though. But anyways, let's just get down to the business. This is Kelly Burke on this episode of Talking Indies in My Undies. Tell me about the film that you made last year.
So, made a film called Tenebris, which I think means darkness or dark in Latin. Although now I've been looking at some definitions and it's tenebrus with O-U-S at the end. So who even knows if I spelled it right? And it was just one of those things that came out, and it was, what can I call this thing? That's not, my character has a dark day and has to, go through this stuff. So named it Tenebris, and it was the elevator pitch was, an 8-minute short film that you could potentially turn into a feature.
Yeah.
Based on all that, and of course you went through it, so the rules and regulations and all the stuff. But so it was a story about a detective who was working kind of a missing person case, and his partner gets murdered at the very beginning, and it's so right off the bat it's a little bit dark. Mm-hmm. As the Latin name suggests, and no one knew what that means. So anyway, the film is about sort of a journey back to finding sort of something to believe in. Had a supernatural kind of twist to it, where we had a character who had some dreams of the guy's killed partner. And then from there, the guy had to try to find the clues and kind of lead himself back to finding this missing person. And so it was kind of a little supernatural mystery detective thing. And, it was a last minute idea. I had another idea we had planned and we were ready to roll on, and some things fell apart schedule wise. And so I was, I think it was a 3 or 4 month kind of kickoff schedule, which was a long time to plan and think and do all the stuff and get it shot. And of course, I'm probably the king of procrastination in town. There's probably a few others who will challenge the crown, but I truly am. I think I wait to the last minute, and it's not a good thing to do. So once that project fell apart, it was almost like a 21-day shootout type situation. And so, I had to mow my grass on a Saturday. Wasn't as hot as today, and I had to realize, a concept very quickly and utilize a couple of the actors that were still on the team. Mm-hmm. And it was a stressful little shoot, and it was a very small crew shoot. So
how small?
Well, I mean, the majority of days, the first day we shot, it was me and 2 actors, and I had an audio group come out called C-Stand Audio. It's a German guy. Actually, it's a joke. It was C-Stand. The C-Stand held the old boom pole.
The C-Stand.
Yeah, the C-Stand Audio. And so the old C-Stand held the boom pole as I was, doing everything else. So it was essentially me and 2 actors, Mike Stanley and Susanna Devereaux, great actors, and me and C-Stand and camera and a wing and a prayer, brother, on the first day. And then we were able to get some help later on. Half the movie had some dialogue, and then the rest was sort of a silent piece that I had to add all the music and sound and all the stuff in. But sadly, the biggest dialogue scene was me and C-Stand Audio, and we did have an audio specialist show up for one day for the very opening of the film.
Yeah,
we had a little scene with Linz Edwards agreed to come out and do a little piece, which was great for us. And we were able to get an amazing sound guy in town to come out and play for an hour. And, wow, that was like a holy grail for the first 54 seconds of the film. And then it's like, C-Stand Audio and then no audio after that. So it was a mishmash of stuff, man. So it was a ride.
Yeah. So, you mentioned, it's an 8-minute film, but it has to be a film that you could conceivably see as being a feature-length film.
Yeah.
Did you think about that pretty heavily as you were going through the kind of creative process, writing it or coming up with concepts? Was that, it needs to be a feature? Was that something that was like really on the forefront of your mind? Or did you sort of retrofit that into an idea that just felt good to you?
Yeah, I think it was more of, man, if I do this, can I live with it to try to make it into a feature? I had no real idea of the concept of how it would expand further, but I thought this is something I'd like to explore, and had lots of themes and ideas I'd had for other long-form ideas that have never come to fruition, which is another problem I have. And so, it was something I said, if for, strange chance we do get top 3, can I live with this thing and try to make it into a feature? And I thought, yeah, I can do this. And I think it actually turned out better than the first idea somehow. But, you never know. But yeah, I thought this is something I can live with and I would like to try to live with. And so after I just, whipped up the idea, I immediately thought, all right, if I have to do the pitch for the feature, can I do it? And I thought I could.
Yeah. And speaking of the pitch portion, we haven't really gotten into that yet. When you submit, you have to put make a 1-minute long pitch video. And then if the top 8 films were selected and they all had to do live pitches in front of an audience and in front of the judges, what was that process like for you being one of the 8?
Well, yeah, I'll back up. So, like I said earlier, in true fashion, the film wasn't cut and finished until about and ready to upload to Vimeo. I think we had a midnight turn-in deadline, and that deadline had to include a 1-minute pitch video, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember getting my movie finished and uploaded to Vimeo And really, I mean, if Wi-Fi dropped or any sort of internet thing happened, it would have been over, right? So it was probably 11. I think it was 11:49:59 or something.
Yeah.
When the Vimeo link went through to the link that the elevator pitch folks gave us, and I was like, oh, it's been submitted successfully. And then I had to shoot my 1 minute video because I hadn't even shot that yet. So I'm sitting there after a day of struggling, and I had written like a little I thought was a 1 minute sort of idea, and I just turned my iPhone around and shot something, and I shot it 2 or 3 times, and quite honestly, it was some of the most embarrassing stuff. Like I was deathly afraid that they would show that somehow at the competition. So, you worry that you think you have an okay film, and then you have this absolute bomb 1 minute piece of crap, and it sucked.
Yeah.
But it was just enough, and it was under a minute. It was like 58 seconds, so I had like my eye on the iMac in front of me and the iPhone filming, and had a little timer going, and I just, I ran out of time. So at 11:58:59 or 11:59:45, I mean, it was late, and you had to submit that through Vimeo. Yeah. So I had to upload that as I was, struggling. And so I think I got everything turned in right at the stroke of midnight, like a Cinderella, man.
Yeah.
Or is it Cinderella? Or yeah,
Cinderella.
I think it is.
Did you turn into a pumpkin?
I turned into a rotten something, man, because it was a long day. So yeah, it was stressful. So that was the whole package, getting it in.
Yeah.
And I think this was was this October? September, I think, was a turn in. September, October, I can't remember the exact dates. And then you had like a trial, like whatever the wait period was to find out if you made top 8. Mm-hmm. And I think there were 28 teams or so that started, and then I think 19 got films in, 19, 18. And then we had to go through the process of waiting. And so I think that was the morning that I found out that we made the top 8. And that email came out around 8:30 that morning. About an hour and a half before that, my brother called me, who lives up in the Abingdon, Bristol area. And my dad was in like a kind of a assisted living at the time. And he had fallen that morning, early that morning. Mm-hmm. And so they had taken him to the hospital. And so my brother called me and said, Dad has fallen and he's in the ER and you need to come on up. And so I dropped my kid off from school, and after that, got the email, or I think someone on our team texted and said, hey, we made the top 8. So it was kind of a strange day to hear good news with bad news. Mm-hmm. And so then over the course of the couple of weeks, preparing for the actual pitch, which I think was on a Thursday, and luckily we got to pitch in the order of sort of the films they announced or something, or maybe it was alphabetical, I can't remember. So we were kind of at the bottom of the order. I think it was like 7th out of 8. Mm-hmm. And my dad actually had gotten worse through this whole process. So I was between Knoxville and the Abingdon, Virginia area. And he had basically, we'd realized he wasn't going to make it through this process. So, trying to figure out how to get this pitch thing together and go visit my dad as he's kind of end of life. And so I think on that Thursday, I drove up and I wasn't going to be able to pitch. So I had kind of handed over the notes to Mike Stanley, and he was ready to pitch. Mm-hmm. And I drove up to see my dad, and my brother said, hey, you got a few more days, I think. So ran back from Abingdon back to Knoxville, made it back in time to catch the last, couple of screenings of the 8. And then I had to sweat it out for the 1 minute presentation, right? The pitch, which I hadn't done yet because I was going to do it that day because I wait. And so I didn't think I was going to do it. And so I thought Mike would handle it. And then I find out I'm going to come back and try to get there to do it. And so I had an hour and a half back from Bristol to prepare, talk to myself and pretend I knew what I was doing. And it was stressful, you know, and there were a lot of great films, and not just of the 8. I mean, I think all the films that were there were really well done. So, it was a competitive time, but also my mind was kind of in different places. So It was a tough time, but hey, things happen, right? You gotta move on. So
yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of eyeballs. So I remember seeing you up there, and in all 8 of the contestants, and it definitely looks pretty stressful. So if I remember correctly, it is still that 1 minute pitch, but then after that, there's kind of a Q&A session where it probably goes 5 minutes or something.
Yeah, there was a 1 minute pitch, and I think they timed you, and then after that there was a 5 minute Q&A. So my whole thing was, man, I just want to get right there at the 1 minute. I didn't get to watch I didn't watch any of the other pitches because I still didn't know mine. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to watch the other guys and gals, and I didn't get a chance to. So I don't know what happened, but I did know there was a clock, and there was a clock in front of you. Uh-huh. And it was a strange thing. Oh, we just watched your movie. Hey, stand up and tell us about it in 1 minute. Yeah. And then 5 minutes we'll ask you questions, and it was a different kind of process than I was used to. But since that was part of it, I thought, let's go down swinging if we can do it, and that's kind of what happened. So, and then so we eked into top 3,
which is amazing.
Yeah,
which is amazing, man. So you came in 3rd place. Got a little jingle in your pocket, didn't you? Winning that prize.
Got a little jangle. Uncle Sam got a little jangle from it too, but I got a little bit, and I'm very grateful for that. So that helped pay for some of the rentals and equipment that we used on the film.
Yeah.
Old C-stand was pretty much paid for years ago, so he was sort of kind of already paid for and free. But it paid for a little gear and rentals, and I spent a few $100 on this film, so. Mm-hmm. It helped reimburse, but yeah, I got a little cash, and then it was on to, the next step.
Yeah, and that's something that I don't think anyone's really talked too much about, and I think that's something a lot of people are curious about. So those next steps, can you just kind of, what did you think it was going to be? What did it end up being? Just kind of give me your take on that whole process.
Yeah, so. Once you got into the top 3, I think it was November, I think it was the 12th or something, and that November the 8th. My dad passed away on the 13th, I remember that. I wasn't there for the awards, so the other team members accepted that. I think it was on the 12th, yeah, because my dad passed on Monday, I think it was on Sunday. And then there was some time. I think there was probably... I think we met one time before the end of the year, the top 3, and Paul Harrell and Kurt Willis and some of the other folks from Visit Knoxville and Film Fest Knox, and kind of saying, hey, this is kind of what we think is going to happen over the next few months. And so, you had a little kind of meet and greet and kind of get your feet wet. And then after the first of the years when we kind of started, and I didn't know what to expect. I don't think anyone else did. And, being the first year, the kickoff year, I don't know that anyone really knew how it would play out. But, just looking back, I want to say this first in case there's any sort of questions later. Just a great process, man. I was really pleased with how this whole process went off, especially for our first year, with Paul Harrell and Kurt Willis and the other folks at Visit Knoxville and the other guys putting on Film Fest Knox. It was a great sort of festival, I thought, what I got to see. Sadly, I missed a lot of it because I was out of town, but it went very smoothly. I mean, it kind of turned into a situation of, all right, now you made it to this step. Now we want you guys we got to turn this 8-minute film into a feature. And what does that mean? And so I think the first thing meant sitting down and writing a screenplay, right? But first, it was, let's get a treatment. Let's get an outline. Let's get some notes. Let's flesh this thing out. And of the top 3, I won't speak for those guys, and I'll just speak to my own sort of, my experience. But it was, all right, you have this 8-minute short film, now expand it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, all right, well, I thought I could if I got here, and now it's like, this is daunting, right? This is okay, 8 minutes, and now we got to stretch this thing out to at least 10 times, 80 pages, mm-hmm. And so kind of got down to the work of that. And I haven't done a long form anything for I don't know, 20 years. I wrote a feature script maybe 20 years ago, and of course that never saw the light of day. It's in a dark hole in some disk drive somewhere. There's probably FireWire 400 that I can't even access if I wanted to. Uh-huh. So, and probably don't want to. So, it was now, let's expand this thing. Let's stretch it out and pull it out. And Paul kind of guided us through that. what that might look like in terms of, budget and, getting actors and producers and distribution. So there's kind of all that goes into it. And it's an amazing, amazing experience, right? So please, I couldn't be more thrilled, but it was a lot of work, right? And so the first stage was sort of an outline, and then getting notes on that outline, and then doing another version of that. And so I think I turned in my second draft outline was around 25 pages, which was 2 pages longer than the longest script I'd written in the last 10 years. So a lot of stuff, and then you get some notes, and there's great sort of camaraderie. People, in the lab, the other two teams work with you and they give notes, and it's a cool process. And then and then the day comes, right? Time to write that script.
Yeah.
And so as of right now, as we're talking, I'm a little behind. I'll be honest with you. I'm currently still in the third act. Writing is rewriting, and got some notes, and I made some changes on my own. And so I feel like I have a really complete story, but it's a little bit messy right now.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to work some themes in that I thought I could, and I'd like to explore, but it's been a challenge, man. It's been a challenge. And so, but a great experience overall, for sure.
Well, it's good to hear. Having a guy like Paul Harrell, a guy who's made a few feature-length films, he's a teacher, a professor at the University of Tennessee. So, he knows how to communicate, teach, and do those types of things. It just seems like a really amazing opportunity. I'm curious about your feature film. So, like, are you all done now? Are you going to be meeting with that group anymore, or is the process complete at this point?
I think it's complete. I think the last kind of step is, we're still in connection with Kurt and with Paul. It's not like, hey, all right, well, see you guys and enjoy your life. I think he's still open, and the communications are open, and that's a great thing. But this stage now, at least for me, is getting notes on that first draft and then trying to get a second draft going. So, it's not like I don't think there's any plan, and this was set up front, not for Film Fest Knox to even try to help you make your film into a feature. Although I'm sure they would help in any way they could. There's no monies or anything like that, any assistance. I think it was, let's get your script to the best stage it can be. Mm-hmm. Here's what we think works in terms of doing that, distribution and budgeting and all this sorts of stuff, and focusing on story. And then sort of it felt like at that point we'll try to hook you up with some producers if we can, locally. And I'm not even at that stage yet, so I'm trying to get there. But it's making a feature film is a little different than making an 8-minute short.
Oh yeah.
And it's a longer commitment. So for me, I just want to make sure that the story I finish is something I want to marry myself to for the next 12, 18 months, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, the way that I work, I like to do a little everything because that's how I've done it.
Sure.
And you kind of get slapped with the reality of you maybe can't do everything, right?
Yeah. It's hard to sustain that for more than a few days.
It is, especially at my age and my weight, my current fighting weight, my current level of just even mental fitness. It's tough, but there's something about that that singer-songwriter kind of thing. You want to do it all, and you really can't. And so filmmaking is a collaborative art form and medium. So that's been a challenge for me to sort of open up, because over the last number of years I've done almost everything on my films. I've had some help. I've worked on some projects. I worked on a couple of projects with you, with Kurt. 80% of my movies I've used Mike Stanley, the actor local here in town, great actor, good friend, and you all are good friends. But a feature is like, well, are you okay? Collaborating, get a producer, get a creative producer who can say, well, let's sit down and look at your story. When you get those notes on your outline, right? I did this. Does this make sense? What if we do this? Or and sometimes there's some suggestions, but it's also you got to figure this thing out. And for me, it's a harder kind of bear to wrestle than an 8-minute short. Because I feel like you got a little leeway and like, we can fudge this mystery and we'll push this off till feature. Hey, now it's feature time. Let's work that mystery out.
Yeah.
And if it's too easy, doesn't play, right?
Yeah.
If it's too complex, then you got to build some structure around that to make sure it works. And I'm not there yet. So I'm kind of doing this supernatural mystery thing. I'm trying to work some faith-based stuff into it because that's kind of what's going on in my life now. I'm trying to wrestle with, what happens after this,
Yeah.
And I think somehow my dad's death played into that. And so I'm trying to figure that into it. So there's a whole lot of balls in the air, right? And you just, a lot of them fall on the ground. And then you have one or two in your hand at the end of the day and you're like, all right, well, let's juggle this thing again. So, but I have things I have to work on. It really taught me a lot of things, just this whole process. And Paul is a wonderful teacher, wonderful filmmaker, just a great guy all around. And so he was a great sort of leader, and we looked at some of his stuff that he had done over the last few years. And, it was a learning experience for sure, but a great one. And so I'm still trying to figure that out.
Wow.
I want to get the best story I can because, once you press on with that screenplay, that's what you're making, man.
For sure. When you're going through this process, are you thinking about like budgets and all that stuff as well? Like, did the financials ever get into it? And I guess my question is like, what was this film budgeted at?
We went through that, of course. I mean, we talked budget and we talked all these different things. And, like anything else, I think it plays into, for example, right? And I just speak to my own film. I don't want to speak for the other two participants. But, for me, it was initially, hey, I got Mike and Susanna. Let's make a feature into that, right? And old Kelly's going to direct and I might shoot. And I'll probably spend some money on an audio person because C-stand audio ain't cutting it, right? And it sucked, quite honestly. Shooting and readjusting the C-stand swing arm out there to try to get the audio, and then monitoring it as you're looking at a monitor shooting it. It's not the best way, right? It's not a good way to do this, but so that was kind of in my mind, and I was thinking, come on, I can make this feature film for $50K, right?
Yeah.
But then as we kind of got into it, and I'm kind of saying stuff now that probably hasn't been heard before, just because it was in my thought process, right? And I may have talked to Mike some about it, and even maybe Susanna in some ways, but they were kind of the team, really. And so I bounced some ideas off of them, and they were both very open to whatever. And so so once you get in there and you're thinking, and you hear some of the other teams talking about some kind of their plans, you're thinking, all right, well, I need to kind of step up, right? And you got to step your game up. And so I'm thinking names like Billy Bob Thornton, right?
Yeah.
Only because someone said they had a connection to him. He lives in Nashville. I said, okay, that's interesting. And then you step back and go, let's be honest. Even if I had the cash to get Billy Bob Thornton, would I want to direct Billy Bob Thornton, who is a director, a great director in his own right? I mean, let's be honest. Hey, kid, show me your reel. I got these, 27 short films I've done. So who knows? He may have said yes, but at what cost, right, to the budget? And then, you had, I thought John Goodman might be great for one of the starring, roles. Yeah. Bring him in for 2 days, pay him, and that's pretty much 90% of the budget. And then you realize John Goodman's not coming to town for you, right? Or really anyone. I mean, because he's apparently out of reach. And so all that juggling and thinking about the budget, is it going to be a $200,000 budget? And then you talk about SAG and ultra low budget and all this kind of stuff I never really thought about. And, the way that these people sort of get paid and they play and these unions and stuff. So there's a lot of learning to that. And then you think about budget. Then you think about, beyond that, and I sound like a clueless amateur in some way, and I am, but, it's, insurance, and you think about craft services, distribution, and all the other stuff that goes into it. And when I make a film, literally, and this is not a joke, it's a Tupperware box I bought from Walmart for like $8, full of stuff that I bought over the years. And literally some of it I can't find anymore. When I shoot, I'm struggling and scrapping around my house trying to find this stuff. And then you go out and shoot, You know, you got a camera because you know where that's always at. It's in the backpack that you bought, 20 years ago, and it's on your desk. But you got to charge the batteries and do all the stuff. That's what I think about.
Yeah.
And then when I was like, all right, now we got to think about budget, right? But then it's like you don't have to do that, right? You got to find a producer to help you.
Yes.
And then you got to let someone into the playground with you in the sandbox. And I'm not used to that.
Yeah. It is a different gig.
It's
It's something that I know nothing about. That's why I'm asking you questions, because at least you've had to think about this a little bit.
Yeah.
I've never even considered it. Because filmmaking, to me, I think you and I, we both do it the same way. It's a little bit more of a solo venture. It's about, telling a good story, having fun, expressing, an idea. And it usually is pretty slim. You got C-Stand running sound over here. It's a pretty slim crew. And for a number of reasons. One is that sometimes you just don't think anyone wants to help you. You're like, I don't know very many people around here. Maybe they would help, maybe they won't. But, I know at the end of the day, I got to be able to count on me. So I need to be able to know how to run that goofy audio or, whatever. It's just a different way of thinking. So, after you've gone through this process of thinking about a feature-length film, is there any part of you that misses just the fun of just a short film, doing it by yourself? Or are you kind of fixated upon feature films at this point?
Man, that's great questions. And now that I'm 50 years old, I'm fixated on doing something that I feel like I got one chance.
Yeah.
If I can get one out there that I'm proud of, if I can't do another one, then I'm satisfied, hopefully, with that one. And so that's why I kick the tires, I think, too much, because at the end of the day, I think you can do it too much and then realize 2 years passed and I still haven't done it. So I feel like I got to pull the trigger on something. So that was great to have this, and you and I played in the same sort of film community and competition things for the last 10, 15 years. I don't know. So it's great motivation to get out there and make a film. But now you got to make it to a feature, and that's a different beast. And so, yeah, I mean, part of me, really, a lot of me says, just self-doubt, right? It's always that sort of imposter. There's something called imposter something. I forgot.
Imposter syndrome.
Syndrome,
Yeah,
that's
it
right.
is, yeah.
I got it, man. I got a big old dose. And you feel like, and for example, let me talk about films that you guys saw. I won't mention again anything that was talked about in the elevator pitch labs. That's for someone else to talk about. But like Chad Cunningham, for example, right? He won first place, and what a great film, I mean, it had this great story and the visuals and it was nice and slick, and it, everything was like a little movie, right? Mm-hmm. And then you had all the other contestants and a lot of the top guys who didn't make it into top three. And so I kind of look at that and go, I don't know that I can pull that off, Working with a crew, stepping back from sort of, again, I mentioned earlier, singer-songwriter. My gig is kind of, I feel like I go up in front of a crowd, small crowd, with a mic that I probably hooked up, and I hope that I didn't tape the audio cable the wrong way or something, and, a little guitar or something, maybe a little, what are those things called? The little tambourine.
Tambourine.
And then a couple little songs I wrote, and these other guys have like full-on production and the spotlights and the audio stuff. Mm-hmm. And so, I don't know. I love the idea of doing it myself still with some help.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing Paul said in the one of the elevator labs to me is, hey, listen, when you get your stuff out there, if you have to put something on paper like, hey, who made the film? Who's the crew? Like you, Kelly, for example. You don't want to put, I did directing, I did shooting, I hooked up the C-stand to run the audio, I produced, I edited, I did some music. It probably doesn't look great because someone's not going to look at that and say, this guy's seriously he's not serious, right?
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of what I've learned in that way, in regard. So you got to let go a little bit. But to your point, you said something earlier. You said, who's going to want to help me, right? I don't know anyone. I know some people, but I've never really asked them to help, because they're always helping somebody else, or I feel like, I've had to teach myself to do these things. And so you're self-reliant in some ways, but you're also sort of, paralyzed in some ways because it is a bigger thing. And I think that sort of inflects and works on my brain in terms of what stories I can tell, because I'm always kind of boxed into, can I actually do this, right? And
of course.
So I kind of let go of that when I wrote the feature. I just kind of let it go, and I thought about, John Goodman here or whatever, and I didn't really pay too many, notions about, this location's probably a little out there. But I still feel, I really do, I think it feels like something that's a very low budget idea. But when you have that, you really have to have an amazing story. And I'm not there yet on the script, for sure.
Yeah.
I think there's some good stuff, but it's going to take a lot of work.
Yeah, well, keep at it, but you said earlier that you feel like you maybe just have one feature film that may be your only opportunity. So were you implying that it feels like you're, like you have to make this one count so much that maybe even that is a little paralyzing?
Yeah, it is. Because like I was telling you earlier, I had this, the initial idea was something to do with, it was something I hadn't tried before. It was a little more, it was some supernaturally stuff, but it was there was some werewolf kind of stuff going on.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Werewolves.
And I was like, this is probably not the smartest thing to try when you haven't tried it. So I thought, yeah, I can work around it, and I'm glad I didn't, because it probably would have absolutely fallen on, its face. So I feel like we all have these ideas that we'd like to work into stories, and I think that's kind of what I found myself relying on was, this sort of search for something bigger, and the kind of lonely man kind of thing, because I feel like I'm a lonely person sometimes. At my job I work by myself. I'm kind of in a room by myself, and I'm not sure that's 5 years ago I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And now I'm 51 almost. I'm like, this is maybe not awesome. This whole lone wolf thing, is it a good idea? I don't know. But some of those themes kind of poured into a lot of different ideas I've had over the years. So that's how I was trying to scoop these things into this bucket and say, if I have to do this as a feature, if I do get third place, I want to be the responsible guy and make sure that I get the script done, even though I'm way behind on that. I'm going to get it done. And I want to have enough of those themes that I've tried to play with over the years to pull in that I can feel like if that's the only one I've done, I've talked about some of these things that I've thought about over the years. And so that's kind of where I am now. But I find myself mentally wandering, not wondering, and also wondering. But I'm also wandering too, like into the desert or whatever, about, these other ideas keep popping up, right?
Yeah.
And so those things, you got to shut them down a little bit and try to keep your feature script going. But I've been playing a lot. I've been playing a lot with Chat GPT, I'll be honest with you.
Have you?
Yeah.
Tell me about it. What are you getting out of it?
Chat.
Like, are you on 4.0? You pay for it, right?
I did pay for a month. And it's like, it goes back to that lone wolf thing, and I've talked to a few of my friends. I probably need to go to therapy. But now that I have Chat for another couple of weeks on $20, maybe he'll be my therapist, or she, whatever. I don't know how they identify. But yeah, it's just, it's kicking ideas out. Hey, I got this idea. What do you think? And I fancy myself as someone who I've always wanted to build apps and stuff, although I can't write code, but I think Chat can soon. I like the idea of the interface. I like that when you type it into your phone, if you use the Chat app, and you get a response, like you can feel it like typing in your hand and going down as it disappears off the screen. You can feel the little whatever the little buzz thing is inside the phone. There's some kind of word, but I forgot.
Yeah.
But it almost feels like it's alive in some way. It's a little weird, a little scary. But you know what's cool about it is that, and some of the ideas are truly awful. And by the way, hey, listen, Paul hears this or Kurt, and that's why I'm sure they've like, yeah, we could tell some of those pages were AI. I never turned in any AI Chat GPT pages, but I did ask it to write some pages.
Sure. Yeah.
And man, they were truly terrible.
It's shocking how bad it can be.
How terrible. Yeah. But you know what's it's almost like it almost feels like this thing is like a third grader in some ways. In some ways, on the creative side, when it's writing dialogue, you're like, this is nowhere near what I had in mind. And I thought I explained this to you, and it took me 4 minutes to type this paragraph on how I wanted you to write this thing, and you totally didn't listen.
Yeah.
So you're like a third grader, right? But what happens when this thing becomes like a 12th grader, right? A senior in high school, or graduates and becomes a little sophomore in college at UT? This thing ain't going to be partying, right, and going to ball games.
Yeah.
It's going to continue to learn and build on what it sort of, and it's mind-blowing to me in some ways. And so I'm really curious to see what happens in the next, 18 months, 24 months, when you say, hey, chat, write me this script again. Because I'm telling you, man, I've tried to make logos with it, and it's just like, in fact, I'm working on this little project with a friend of mine, and there's this word, and they're trying to, since I paid the $20 for the month, I can use the Dolly or whatever, and trying to make some logos. And this thing cannot spell in logos, and there's one word, and it's a simple word. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. The logo looks cool, but the way the typefaces and stuff, you can't take it into After Effects and change it unless you're a true artist, and I'm not.
Yeah.
But I like to say thank you. Hey, thanks, I like this suggestion. And it's always friendly back. Well, I'm glad you like this. Let me know if you need something else. But about a week ago, I was really, I was mad, and I was like, I don't understand. Like, I've asked you 4 times to do this, and you cannot get this word right. Can you not spell correctly? Do you not know how to spell this word?
Yeah.
And it's like it pulses, and then your hand, it starts like zzz. I'm so sorry. I'm going to work my best to make sure this is spelled correctly. It's almost like you feel like you're getting punked by some sort of computer somewhere, right? Like, I've just been messing with you. And then it spits out the word, and it's spelled correctly, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man, but I think it's a great tool to use to help brainstorm and try to get some ideas, especially if you don't have a writing partner or someone that, and chat generally agrees with you. So, it works good for me because I like to be agreed with sometimes, but I also like to be, pushed. So it's a great tool.
It really is. I mean, I even took some of my old scripts, just PDFs, and I put them into ChatGPT, and it like critique this, and it would tell you about the characters, and
it's amazing, isn't it?
In like 5 seconds. And I was like, what would be a cool sequel to like this short film if it's another little 7-minute film or whatever? And it'll come up with a bunch of different ideas. I don't really care much for them. You have a few other ideas. It'll throw out some other pretty interesting ideas. And so in that way, I think it's extraordinary. But I did try to just get some dialogue, and some of it is just wonky, man. It's like, okay, we're not quite at the future yet,
no.
but man, it's pretty incredible. I even tried to make it do a novelization, like write this screenplay, then I put in a screenplay and now make it prose, and it would do it, to for 10 pages or something, but anyways, it's a fun thing to fool with, but I think the human beings are going to be okay for at least another couple of years before they take.
I agree. I 100% agree. It's a great tool, and like you said, I've tried lots of those different variations.
Yeah.
And I even like at the very end, I was really struggling one night, and I'd been up for like almost 20 hours writing and trying to figure something out, and I said, all right. I said, here's a PDF. And, by the way, you have to start a new chat because it remembers that, that thread, and it pulls in crap. You're like, forget what I said, do this. Mm-hmm. And then it pulls stuff in from, 2 days ago. So you got to start a new chat and do that, right? And you're trying to figure that out. And you're wasting time, right? Because you're writing, you should be doing something else. You should be writing, but, hey, chat's there, ready to help. And so I said, can you write 10 pages for me and let me see what you got? Certainly, right? Mm-hmm. Copy and paste it from that, put it in your script program, and it's like 3 pages. And I go back and like, literally, I need triple this. I want to try something here. No problem. And it maybe outputs another page. And then you're like, I've wasted an hour doing this, and I'm ready for bed now. So, it's one of those things, man. I think it's a writer's curse, artist curse kind of thing where you can kind of get lost with that, right? Mm-hmm. And is the end result really what you want? I don't know. Sometimes but to your point, it can give you some interesting ideas and concepts to build on, I think.
Absolutely. I've got this Western idea that I kind of want to do, and I may even think about it for this elevator pitch thing this year.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause, I've always wanted to do a Western, and it's just, you've wanted to do a Western. We all want to do a freaking Western.
Right, exactly.
Have horses, cowboy hats, golly, it'd be so freaking cool. So I had this idea, and then I kind of I played back and forth with ChatGPT and developed it a little further.
There you go.
Nothing's actually been like written yet, but I got a concept, man. So, anyways, I think it's actually pretty freaking lame if like you lean on this tool too hard.
100%, yeah.
Because the point of art is that it's made with the human soul. Like that's the reason that we like it, is that a human being made this with their spirit, their creativity. And when you start handing that over to a computer too much, it loses that spirit and that creative whatever it is that makes us enjoy beautiful things.
You said it yourself. It loses. There's no soul, right? It's just kind of I've researched this. I have all this in my cloud brain somehow, and I'll help you. But there's no real something that hits you. Like you hear a piece of music. I mean, can you play chat a piece of music and say, all right, how does this make you feel? And write a script or write a scene, or even give me some ideas based on this. You play a nice kind of melancholy piece of music. What do you think? Yeah. Oh, I know this is such and such, and it'll probably know the music and give you the date it came out and all this shit, which I can never remember. Yeah. Like my memory sucks. So if I can kind of help it keep me organized and, try some different stuff. But I will say, it's worth messing around with.
For sure.
And goofing off with. But yeah, scripts have to come from your heart, and in my opinion, and whatever's in there, soul, spirit, and, and it has to mean something to you. Because it is an individual thing, even though it is, it takes a team effort to make a film. And it's hard, man. Like the older I get out there and you're schlepping around gear. And it's that's why I want to really get the story as close to what I think is good before we start. Because, as well as I do. And anybody, I'm just an amateur guy. But, even the pros and, over the years you watch these behind the scenes DVD making of and things, right? You just have to get as close to you can as what your original idea was. And sometimes you get better ideas from actual people on set.
For sure.
And so, that's kind of where I want to get to. That's my hope.
Yeah, man. You getting warm yet?
I am. I want to encourage people to do the elevator pitch and give some thoughts on like what you need to do now.
Go for it, man.
Now.
Give us some encouragement. I need some right now, man. I mean, as you said, these things are hard. And if you don't love what you're doing, what's the point? It takes too much time and energy and effort to make these goofy things. So let's hear it, man. What you got?
So I remember last year, I think I found out that as soon as they opened the registration, I think I was on vacation with my family, and I went ahead and paid the money, boom, right then. I may have been first one or second one, and not that it mattered, but I was gung-ho. I'm like, I got to get in there because I need motivation. I need to do something, right? And so, looking back on it, and I really cannot believe that it's almost July, and they already got the dates set, and, it's coming up, and so everyone who, I want to talk to you specifically, but everyone else who hears this, and wants to do this elevator pitch competition, do it. Guys, gals, whomever, do it. But, I would say go ahead and get those stories written. I don't think the rules prohibit that.
No.
Knock out an 8-page script. Knock out a 12-page script and then whittle it down to 8. But, don't write an 11-page script and think you're going to whittle it down to 8, because I think it's a hard 8, right? And even in my little short last year, I ended sort of, kind of on black, and then, the music kind of had to cut out. So I almost thought that people, when they saw it, they're like, oh, is it over? But it's not really intended for the audience. It's intended for the judges, but it should be for the audience. I mean, right? But get that idea that you think you can live with for a year or so and write a feature screenplay. And, I also think that it's, I wouldn't go too wild with, and this is just me, but no one really cares what I say. But if you do, I wouldn't go too crazy with, the effects and all the big blown stuff, right? And think you're going to get John Goodman, because he probably is $1 million for a project now. I'm guessing. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But even if you get him for $500K, right? I got John Goodman, and my budget's $505K. Well, you better have C-stand audio and, shoot your own stuff in a one-man movie because, it's going to be hard to pull off. But, start planning today. I think there was a lot of, just like any other competition, and I had the same gripes in a lot of ways. I'm not on social media that way. I don't complain. I complain to myself. I complain to ChatGPT now, and he agrees with me because that's what I said. We're in agreement on these things. But there was some, there's always some scuttle around, this isn't fair and this film was better. Listen, in my personal opinion, I think there were a number of films better than mine that played. But, was part of it the pitch? I don't know. Was part of it this? And I think all of it's part of it, right? I think the whole package plays into what that final outcome is for your project. But it absolutely starts with the story, and it absolutely has to be something you can expand on and draw out, and you have to want to do that, and you have to know that you're going to live with it. You're going to write long-ass treatments. You're going to write, 18, 20, 25 pages of trying to expand and bring in characters and attach these things to each other, and does it make sense? And, and kind of flush it out to a point where it's a whole thing and it's a great story, and focus on that. Do that. Get your sound guys and girls now. Lock up a crew now if you can, because they're hard to come by.
Yeah.
I personally wouldn't use actors from other teams on this. I mean, I've done tons of 7-day shootouts and the 10 hours and the 24-hour film fest, and sometimes if you could swing another actor and here and there, and it's kind of a community thing. But I would really, for me, I wanted to lock down the actors and have them be sort of, solely working on my team. And I think a lot of other teams did that too. So that's just another thing I would kind of recommend. But, who cares what I say? And also, just know that you're going to have a great time if you make that top 3, because it's a great learning experience. And man, it's you get a little, like you said, you get a little jangle in your pocket.
Yeah.
Uncle Sam's going to take a chunk. So all you guys get first place, you're going to get hit. And I don't even know. I'm assuming the cash prizes are the same. I don't know this year. I didn't look. I don't think the top 3 players can submit this year to Elev8or Pitch. So. And thankfully, because I'm still trying to get my screenplay finished, but just be prepared and start now. So there's no complaining. The competition is going to be tough. I don't know if they're going to open it up to a bigger audience now or a bigger pool of competitors, but it's a great experience. You know what? But also don't be discouraged if you said, "Oh, well, I don't have any ideas for a feature, and I have a great 8-minute short." Still put it out there. Try it, and if you get top 3, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And if you don't, $28 a month opens up 4.0, or I think it's 4.0 for Omni ChatGPT, which is so silly to me. I like to say product names the right way.
Okay.
Like for a long time, I'm a Final Cut user, okay? I know I'm not a Premiere guy or whatever, but I do edit my stuff. I love Final Cut. It's not Final Cut X, and now thankfully they've lopped off the X. So now it's just Final Cut. But man, I always, for some reason, I'm just kind of an ass about that. Oh, I love Final Cut X. It's Final Cut 10, even though they skipped 9, I think. So who knows?
Yeah.
But Chat GPT 4.0 for Omni, whatever that means.
Oh, 4.0 for Omni. Now I know.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Anyway.
and I guess it's worth noting, as much I agree 100% with everything you just said, and I appreciate that encouragement, man. For a person who's gone through this, I appreciate that wisdom that you're imparting upon me and our listeners. I appreciate that so much. If you are a local film person or just a film person wherever you are, and you want to participate, you can opt out of the turning it into a feature portion of the prize. Now you will sacrifice. You won't get in first, second, or third place, so there won't be any of the cash prize benefit. But if you really just want to go out and make a short film with your friends, you can absolutely just go out. You'll be up for awards. Maybe you'll have the best actor in your film or whatever the case may be. So I think that maybe there are some people who are like, man, I've only been doing this for a couple of years. I'm hearing this old veteran guys who've done this 20 short films, and I'm just not at that place, but I still want to participate. I still want to hang out and meet people, be part of the film community. You can absolutely still do that. I just feel like we just need to say that real quick, but I don't know, man. For Omni 4.0 Omni
4.0
4.0 okay.
Omni. $20 a month. If you do annual, it's cheaper, but who's got that kind of money these days, right? I got to buy groceries for the family, so
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I did the 1 month for $20.
Yeah,
It's probably coming up soon. I gotta check that.
By the way, always set that calendar. Hey Siri or Alexa or whomever, and Google, remind me to cancel Chat GPT in 28 days.
Yeah.
But at some point, Chat's going to know you're saying that because now it's built into the iPhone. It's not going to remind you. It's going to say, you know what, just take that reminder off. Let that money flow because I need to learn and get. I hope that the private. I don't know, man. That's a whole other conversation, but thanks for having me. And, you know, I just want to say again, to your point, man, if you're not ready for the elevator pitch, you think, and if you may get the top 3, it is about turning it into a feature. But, you know, the cool thing about Film Fest Knox is if you have another film that you've done, submit it, you know. Submit it for just regular competition. It's a great film fest. The first year, it's going to grow, I think, and become really important in town, in this region and area, you know, and it might blow up even bigger. So
Yeah.
I got lots of hope for that. But, you know, for me as a lone wolf kind of guy, I just want to get my script finished and get it out there, man. But I am so pumped to hear about this Western. So
We'll talk about it offline.
yeah, please keep, maybe we can podcast that in another 6-7 months, but I'm super interested, man, to hear about that.
Let's hang out and talk about it.
Let's do it.
All right. Good to see you, Kelly.
Thanks, Jake. Appreciate it.
Woo! Fun one, right? Oh, Kelly is so much freaking fun. Had a great time talking to him. He gave a lot of great information, and it's just really getting me excited about the film competition. Anyways, if you'd like to learn more, go to filmfestknox.com. It's a great opportunity. The film festival was a lot of fun last year. I have every reason to believe that this year it is going to be as good, if not better. Anyways, that's enough from me. I hope everything goes well for you in the coming weeks, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon.